Hello there everybody and welcome back to another Flow video. This is Jacob Tucker, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to send a transaction on the Flow blockchain using a non-custodial account on a backend or server or whatever it may be. So in short, a non-custodial account is something where you own the private key. So this is very common if you want to have some server or admin signing transactions on a backend rather than a user on some sort of client or front end. So first of all, in order to actually send transactions on a backend, we need to have an admin account. And so I'm going to walk through creating that admin account right now from scratch. But if you've already done that, then feel free to skip this portion of the video. So first of all, what you're going to need to do is install the Flow CLI. So in order to do that, I'll put the link to this in the description. It'll be this link, and you'll just simply copy the command for your computer. In my case, I'm using a Mac, so I would copy this, paste it in my terminal like that. I'm not going to do that because I've already done it. And if it works, then if you type flow version, you will see a version in your terminal. So now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is say flow keys generate -- network equals testnet. And what that's going to do is create a public and private key pair, or generate one for me on that network. So of course, if you're doing this on mainnet or emulator, you would have to specify that there as well. So now that I have a public and private key pair, what I'm going to do right now is take this public key, and I'm going to go to this link, which will be in the description. And sorry if you just heard that bing, by the way, on my computer. But I'm going to go to this link, and I'm going to paste in my public key. And what this is going to do, and you can leave these normal as well, is create a Flow account using that public key. So please click on the object that differs from the others. Okay, I think it's these two. Oh, no, it wants me to click the not ball one. That's the rabbit. Okay. The rabbit. Bang. Okay. So what this is going to do is use our public key that we created, or that we generated, and then create an account with it. And it's also going to give us, because this is testnet, this is going to give us 1,000 test tokens. Now, if you're doing this on mainnet, then what you'll actually have to do is go to port.onflow.org. And I will quickly log in with my wallet here, just so that you can see. I don't even know what my password is. Oh God, I might have to just use Blockdo instead. Let's just use Blockdo. And if I log in with Blockdo here, then if I go ahead and click on Advanced and Create New Account, you can do that right here instead. So again, if you're doing this on something like mainnet, you would paste in your public key right here, okay? And then you would just create it easily right there. All right, but we're on testnet. So what I'm going to do is take this address right here, copy that, and go to my env file and paste that right here. So that's the server account address. Now the private key is actually also in our terminal, so that's right here, okay? So now everything is set up in our .env file. And that's great. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually create the dummy transaction. So you probably already have this set up, but if not, I'll just show you how to make a dummy transaction on a server. So what we're going to do is just say async function send transaction, and this is just going to say const response equals await mutate, and mutate is going to come from @onflow/fcl. Don't know why I imported it weird like that, but make sure in your package.json to install @onflow/fcl. And while we're at it, we also have to install two other things. I'll get to this file in a second, but SHA-3 and elliptic. So make sure to go to your terminal, type npm install @onflow/fcl, SHA-3 and elliptic, okay? And then enter, and it'll install all those dependencies for you. So we're going to do mutate. We're going to pass in cadence, which, well, we're just going to make a dummy transaction just for fun. So transaction, let's just say x int and y int. We're going to make a little prepare statement. This is just normal transaction stuff. And then that'll just be our dummy transaction. Doesn't do anything. Let's pass in those arguments that we wanted. We made an x and a y here. So we're just going to pass in arg1 for x and arg2 for y. Does nothing, doesn't really matter. We're going to say limit. Let's just say the limit of this transaction is 100. It goes up to 9999, I think, depending on how much computation is going to be used. It won't really change the gas because transactions on Flow are so cheap anyway. But the main portion of this is, we obviously have to specify a proposer, a payer, and authorizations, which are just the authorizers of the transaction. Now, on a normal client, if a user was running this with a custodial account, you would just say something like fcl.authz, right? And you would fill that in for all these things, but we're not on a client. We're using our private key. So what we say here instead is this file, this sign.js file. Now, honestly, a lot of the stuff in here is stuff that I barely even understand. I just use it and I know that it works. And so I'm going to paste this. There's going to be a GitHub repo in the comments where you can literally just copy and paste this code and put it into your project. And it'll work totally fine. Now you can see it requires the server account address and the server private key that we provided in our .env file. I do want to point out there's another thing you can specify, which is a key ID. Really short, accounts on Flow can have basically infinite number of keys. The keys can all be the same. So you can have the same public key duplicated a million times in your account. They just have different key IDs. Now you might be asking, well, what's the point of having a lot of key IDs? Well, it's really helpful for stuff like a server admin or something on a backend, because on Flow, if you want to sign transactions at the same time, so if multiple transactions being sent at the same time, you have to rotate the key ID that you're using. You can't just send multiple transactions at the same time using one key ID. So what a lot of people do is they will add public keys. They will duplicate the key on their account many, many times. And I have a video on that on my channel. If you look it up, it's called add public key, I think. They will rotate the key here. So if they're sending transactions a lot, you can rotate that key and send transactions at the same time. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to leave that at 0. So anyways, you can go ahead and copy that from the repo and clone that and just use it. And so what that allows us to do is just put signer here, because that is the name of this function, signer. And you can see it takes in the account that will get passed through by FCL. Okay. So great. So we can put signer, signer, signer. So our backend admin will propose the transaction, which is what needs to be rotated. So you could, there's also ways in which you can configure this so that you can sort of multi-sign, like it's like multi-send transactions on Flow, where the user on the client is the proposer and then the admin pays for it and signs it. And what that can do is that's really helpful, because then you don't have to handle key rotation. The user is proposing it and that's all that matters, but we're paying and authorizing it. Anyways, I'll stop on that for now, and maybe I'll save that for another video. But so we're also going to pay for it and then authorize it. So the authorizations is what gets passed in right here. That's this auth account right there. So this should go through, and then what we can do is just console.log the response. Cool. And then send transaction. Now the only other thing I forgot to do here is to actually configure FCL to work with testnet. So to do that, we can just import config and just say access node.api is https rest testnet.onflow.org. Yes, I'm looking at my notes and cheating, but that is the testnet API URL. So this should go through. So if we go to our terminal now and we run node main.js, we should see that it sends the response. This is the transaction ID. So we can go to our browser. We can go to testnet.flowdiver.io and paste in this ID, and we can see that it went through. And we go to our script. There's our X and our Y, and there it is, success. So wow, that works on the first try. That usually never happens for me, but cool. So that's how to send a transaction on a backend. All right, I'll see you all later.